2. Two, check. Red Wizard, what is this? What is this anti-pickle? What is this anti-pickle stance? What is this? What is with that? That's honestly messed up. It's 2024. It's the year of our Lord, 2024, and we got pickle haters out here. We got people that don't enjoy pickles. Anthony Edwards' first 22-year-old Finals MVP. I mean, I don't think I'm ready to make that kind of prediction yet, but as I mentioned on the Insurgents podcast, I would not, even though I think Denver's the pick over Minnesota, I would not want to bet against them, and I would not want to bet against Anthony Edwards, and he looked fucking phenomenal in game one, so I was absolutely correct. I'm not ready to say they're going all the way to the finals and winning the finals. Like I don't think it's not beyond the realm of possibility. I think it's entirely something that could happen. I don't think I'm quite ready to believe that yet. But he's a superstar. He's a superstar in the making. What a cool thing about sports too, right? When you get to see someone kind of take that leap. That's one of the things I was mentioning on the podcast this week. Like, we're at a time as basketball fans where we're seeing the old guard fade away. We got LeBron and Durant out in the first round. Steph Curry didn't even make the playoffs. We're seeing this kind of shifting of the guard, changing of the guard. And that's so cool in any sport, whenever you get to see somebody, especially like a young guy, start to like figure it out, start to put it all together in the most high stakes, high pressure environment possible. Pretty amazing stuff. It is like a great leap forward. I'm just confused by this pickle discourse because I've been eating sandwiches on camera on this stream for multiple years now. I think every single sandwich that I've ever eaten on here has had a pickle on it. Some kind of pickle. Sometimes a sweet pickle, sometimes a garlic dill. This is not this new thing. Like, wow, what's this? What's this? This is like literally a everyday occurrence, practically. I only paid attention today. Okay. Kill Panic. I haven't seen Gentlemen in Moscow. Oh, Dr. Edelhoff. Will you listen to a specific SoundCloud track on stream? This is not meant to self-promotion. The song is mostly a meme. Wonder how it sounds to someone who's not in on most of the references. Yeah, sounds good. Send it over. Chin chin, folks. Happy Monday. Let's get back at it. Ugh. A Gentleman in Moscow sucks. It's about a nobleman sentenced to house arrest in a nice hotel for the rest of his life. Sounds horrible. Man, how could you ever go through something so terrible? He survives Bolshevik repression and elevates those around him thanks to his upbringing and manners. That does sound pretty bad. I don't know if I'm going to be watching that one. What about, I would hate to be arrested in a nice hotel. It sounds awful. What about The Sympathizer? Has anyone seen that? How's that? Excuse me. Yeah, please don't arrest me in a nice hotel. I would hate it. I would hate that. Has anyone seen The Sympathizer? Is that a... What about that? Has anyone seen that? Oh, good. I see my mic hiss problem is back. That's good. Good. That actually makes me happy. I was wondering what The Sympathizer was like. The trailer didn't seem anti-communist enough to be on HBO. Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm not sure either. I wonder if it's going to be the thing like The Americans, where you kind of are supposed to sympathize with the sort of protagonist at first, but then that gets used to sort of like promote this sort of anti-communist theme or viewpoint. If I'm going to waste time watching stuff on Paramount, it'll be on Star Trek or Beverly Hills 90210. I used to love Beverly Hills 90210 back in the day. I haven't watched it since the 90s. Like, I have not watched an episode of it since the 90s. I used to watch it all the time. It does have a banger theme. So far, The Sympathizer is great. They make fun of the South Vietnamese army in general pretty effectively. I should check it out. We'll see. I'll give it a shot. I'll see how it goes. How was everybody's weekend? How was your weekend? I hope it was good. Mine was pretty successful. My son was in a little play on Saturday. He's been doing this like theater, like extracurricular theater program thing. It's like in French because it gives him like a chance to speak French and practice doing French a bit more. So he's been doing that. And on Saturday, he did a little performance. He was in, he played Papa Bear in Boucle d'Or, Goldilocks. And he played the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood. They did 2 of those. And he did a great job. He was very happy. I was proud of him. He did very good. He's a bit of a theater kid, yeah, but I don't know, that's what he's into. That's just what he's into. He loves acting, this guy. He really does. And on Sunday, one of his friends came over to hang out and play for a little bit. And like, he hadn't had a friend hang out here in this apartment before, so that was cool. He was really excited. Like, he was so fucking excited for his friend to come over. He woke up at 4 a.m. and he was trying to talk to me about his friend coming over at 4 a.m. And it was another one of those conversations where I was like, buddy, I can't talk to you about this right now. I can't talk to you about this. We got to sleep some more, you know? I'm not going to be able to do this if we don't sleep. And then he was up, I think he might have gone back to sleep for a little while, but then he was up at 6 a.m. and he was like asking the Google thing like every 5 minutes, how much time is left till 11? How much time is left? Every like few minutes for a good 3 hours. But it was really cool. It was really cool. Like I said, he's not had a friend come over here before to this apartment. I've been really making it. I really want this place to be like a, home for him. So he really liked it, and his friend thought it was very cool. No one was weirded out by my commie stuff. The kids' parents came over as well. We had a little chat. My commie stuff is pretty subtle. I mean, I'm looking at it now. Maybe not that much, but it's a lot written in other languages, so maybe it's not entirely clear what it is at first. All my posters are like written in Russian. I do have the Lenin statue, of course, but maybe that's not instantly identifiable. For me, obviously it would be, or for some of you, it might have been instantly identifiable. But no, they thought my apartment was cool. Why is the word is slight flagged? I have no idea, Diego. No, I have no clue how any of that stuff works. I know for sure we've never gone and banned a bunch of words. My commie stuff is pretty subtle. All my posters are Cyrillic Soviet propaganda. Well, there's that. There's like a Down with World Imperialism poster in Russian. There's a Cuba 1968 poster that's in Arabic. There's another poster about literacy in Russian. And then there's another one about the Spanish Civil War, which is in Spanish. Did you see all the disinformatia on Rob's walls? I mean, listen, what would be more sick if you come to someone's apartment and they have a bunch of old posters about Cuba or the Spanish Civil War or literacy or whatever, or imagine going to someone's house, they've got a bunch of pictures of Justin Trudeau or fucking Obama or Hillary Clinton. I would be way more weirded out. All my DPRK resisting American aggression posters and Nazi snakes being strangled are very low key. Imagine you go to someone's house, they've got a picture of John Kerry on the wall. What that would weird me out. You know what I mean? I would be like, whoa. Just John Boehner, just a bunch of John Boehner pictures. The original Orange Man. Do they know that you were the worm god who leads the friendship triangle? No, that's like a second hangout kind of thing. He was a swift boat veteran. That's one of the funniest things about the Foo Fighters. The Foo Fighters have that album In Your Honor, I think it's called. And it's written in your honor about John Kerry. That shows how like politically engaged these modern like rock guys are. They have an album dedicated to John Kerry. Oh no. As a teenager, I confess I had a Prince William picture up amongst my heartthrobs, but that was a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, listen, I get it. In the twink version of Prince William, he looked just pretty handsome, you know. But he got that British gene though. That British gene. As soon as he turned like 30, just instantly became like an old man. No, John Kerry is still alive. All my relatives' houses had crosses and little pictures of Mary in them growing up. And one of my aunts had this scary clown paintings in her basement whose eyes followed you around the room. And as you go down the stairs, the eyes are immediately on you. Yeah, I think I'm okay. It's not that bad. I'm taking a picture of my living room for you. I remember when the Dem argument was that conservatives will like him because he won 3 Purple Hearts. And the Republicans just went to work immediately discrediting his service. Yeah. We'll nominate our own troop. It's not like George W. Bush who like didn't want to serve. This spoiled rich kid. We'll nominate a guy that actually did serve, okay? And they won't be able to say a goddamn word. As it turns out, that didn't really work. Turns out that strategy doesn't really work. Let's try it like 10 or 12 more times though to see if that makes an impact. I know it didn't work that time, but let's keep doing that over and over and over and keep nominating more cops and troops and FBI agents and CIA agents and NSA agents. So, Clutch Cargo, the news that I saw this weekend was that Hamas accepted a ceasefire proposal a few days ago and that Israel was saying no to it. And Israel last night was bombing Rafah. It's almost as if it doesn't matter if it works. That was one of my first, because that John Kerry, George Bush election was the first U.S. election that I really paid close attention to. Like I was like 17 or maybe 18 in 2000. And I would kind of knew what was going on, but I wasn't really paying attention to it or anything. And that was the first election that because like it was after Bush and after 9/11 and after Iraq that I became more like interested in following politics and definitely more like progressive and wanting to explore that. First election I voted in, yeah. And I remember just being so certain. Obviously, they're not going to re-elect George Bush. I mean, that's obviously they won't blow this, right? Obviously, they won't lose to George Bush, who's clearly like a dumbass and is also now responsible for this big debacle and just universally hated domestically and internationally. Clearly, clearly they won't lose to that guy. And then on the day being like, huh. It's like just watching all the watching him win all the key states. Huh. Didn't George win rather easily? I mean, I think it was locked up that night. There wasn't much confusion or doubt about it. I can't remember what the actual like electoral college score was, but $286 to $251. I remember the day of. It didn't feel that close. They was all getting called that night. Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a map. Didn't quite get it done. Did not quite get it done, unfortunately. I remember I really liked John Edwards too. John Edwards, I was like, oh, here, this is the guy. This is the big progressive guy. You know? This is the future. I'm John Kerry and I'm reporting for duty. And they put out that jib jab thing. Remember the jib jab George W. Bush thing? What a simpler time, wasn't it? What a simpler time that was. Right?
Jab.
This land is your land, this land is my land. I'm a Texas tiger, you're a liberal wiener. I'm a great crusader, you're a Herman Munster. This land will surely vote for me.
This land is your land, this land is my land. I'm an intellectual, you're a stupid dumbass. I'm a Purple Heart winner, and yes, it's true, I won it thrice. This land will surely vote for me.
I didn't even remember the dance, I was just doing that naturally.
Of pancakes. You offer flip-flops, I offer tax breaks. You're a UN pussy, and yes, it's true that I kick ass. Ah! This land will surely vote for me.
You can't say nuclear, that really scares me. Sometimes a brain can come in quite handy, but it's not gonna help you, because I won 3 Purple Hearts. This land will surely vote for me.
You're a liberal sissy.
You're a right-wing nut job.
You're a pinko commie.
You're dumb as a doorknob.
Hey, you got that Botox.
But I still won 3 Purple Hearts. This land will surely vote for me.
This land was my land.
But now it's our land.
From California to the New York Island. What'd I do?
From the liberal wieners
To the right-wing nut jobs.
this land belongs.
This land belongs. This land belongs to you and me. Yeah. Oh, and Dick Cheney too.
Classic. Yeah, it actually touches on something when it recognizes that both parties are settler colonial fascists. There's a hint of something more, you know, a hint of something more than the standard sort of liberal comedy. There's a feint at like actually having a larger point that might be kind of interesting to get into. A small nugget of awareness. That's right. Classic. The stupid dumbass line at my parents howling. A lot of our parents. I don't doubt it. I was only 3 during that election, but I guess my parents showed this to me sometime later. I remember learning that there's a term for 3 times like twice called thrice. Yeah. God, I'm so old. I'm so old. You know what? I still have I give a lot of credit to Michael Moore. Really, like, in watching Bowling for Columbine and Fahrenheit 9/11 really did a lot. Really did a lot to, like, push me in a certain direction. I think we kind of make fun of Michael Moore for being, like, a lib or whatever, having, like, you know, whatever issues you might have with someone like Michael Moore, who might have a sort of a strong critique of, you know, capitalism, imperialism, whatever it is, but not really grounded in any sort of like real theory, with only, like, you know, which is this kind of liberal progressive vision by animating any of that. But, like, man, would I be where I am today without Michael Moore and Michael Moore's films in the early 2000s? I don't know. Maybe I would, but it really did a lot at the time. Michael Moore, Daily Show, Colbert Report were the only people critiquing the U.S. regime in the 2000s. Yeah, it's like, it was genuinely pretty subversive. Like after 9/11 and during Iraq, you know, I remember really well watching Michael Moore's Oscar speech, and that, in light of, like, what we saw at this year's Oscars, there was no real, except for Jonathan Glazer, which, of course, Jonathan Glazer got annihilated for having this basic, like, I don't want my identity being used to justify genocide message. People lost their fucking minds. But, like, right when the Iraq War was kicking off, you know, that took genuine bravery, I think, for Michael Moore to get up there and make this kind of statement at the time. And everyone freaked out at him. Everyone was booing him and stuff. I remember the time he got the FICA selected. I loved the Awful Truth, I think, was the show. I think I still have the DVDs still. I have those Awful Truth DVDs. Yeah, I know the Zone of Interest is really good. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet. I believe the U.S. is generally more conservative now than during the Bush years. I mean, risk inverse, like, there's a lot of similarities right now, like, with the language that's being used and the media, like, completely losing it on dehumanizing not only, like, anti-war protesters, but Muslims in general. Like, I think the media in America, nothing has been learned. We're right back to square one. Like, the media, if you're, like, unless you're, like, you could be right as well. It could be even worse. But at the very least, I think with American media particularly, we're right back where we were 2002, 2003. Like, it's all the exact same rhetoric. It's as insane. It is as insane as it was then. And I remember very well then, and it feels really similar. Did the Islamophobia ever stop? Well, it did take a little break, I would say, Joe. Like, it definitely continued through the Obama years, even though Obama tried to put this, like, kind progressive face on it. There still was like a deeply Islamophobic and fucked up foreign policy that he was overseeing. I think there was an effort to pivot away from Middle East stuff and pivot towards China and Russia, you know? And especially during the Trump years with like the Muslim ban and Trump's comments about like isn't like Muslims and, you know, his whole obsession with like pig fat bullets and stuff like that. Remember, he would always go on these kind of rants, and there was kind of like an institutional pushback on this. There was like I can't believe he's saying these awful things. There was more of an effort to, I think, move away from this in the discourse and pivot towards like these geopolitical enemies. You remember as early as like as recently as 2012, remember Obama got asked about Russia being America's ally, and it was this big joke. Remember that? Talking about random elections. In the Mitt Romney Obama election, Romney said Russia was America's greatest enemy, and it was this big like gaffe. Like liberals were going, what is this guy talking about? The same people 4 years later are so deranged and obsessed with Russia that like it's all they can ever fucking talk about. In 2012, they were like, "What is Mitt Romney saying? What is this guy going on about?" So I think there was this effort to pivot away from this kind of institutional Islamophobic kind of language in media. And in a foreign policy way as well, to pivot towards like these bigger confrontations with Russia and with China. But we've seen just in the last 7 months that was all just like lurking under the surface. It never went away, you know? Yeah, exactly the same with China until the pivot to Asia. There's like a point where you can say they were like, oh shit, we have to start paying attention to this. But you see definitely in the last 7 months that was always still lurking under the surface, and now it's just as bad as it's ever been. We have like NYPD guys saying like, who's radicalizing our students? You know, and this kind of stuff. All these anti-war protesters, anti-genocide protesters, they're all pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist. Don't you know what they do to the LGBTQ people? And all this kind of stuff, this kind of language. So it never went away, definitely. I think there was an effort to pivot away from the Middle East. And you saw that effort happening in both the U.S. government and the regime media. But they can't help themselves, though. And I guess it's funny, like, observing all these different American elections over the years, too. Like, now we're talking about 2004, now we're 20 years later. Actually, that's kind of surreal for me now that I'm thinking about it. I said 2004 was, like, the first U.S. election that I ever paid close attention to. And now we're coming up on 2024, and here I am talking about this shit every day. That's kind of messed up, actually, now that I think about it. But you hear the same things every time, you know? Oh boy, this election, you can't stay home. I know things aren't perfect. I know we haven't gotten everything right. You can't stay home, though. The real bad guys. It's your vote that's going to prevent the real baddies from taking over. And we don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea. We can't take that chance, though. It's the most important election of your lives. I think when you start hearing that every 4 years for multiple decades, it starts to lose some of the impact, doesn't it? And like I've been talking about, it's like they're saying like, you got to vote for the Democrats this time. Trump might win again, and he's going to take away, there's going to be no more free speech. There's going to be no more democracy. While under a Democratic president in cities that have Democratic mayors and states that have Democratic governors and Democratic city councils and Democratic state senators and all this stuff, and you have armed riot cops going in to beat the shit out of students, anti-genocide college students, and people are really like, Trump's going to take away your free speech. This is just a taste of what's going to happen if Trump is elected. Like, after a while, it starts to lose its meaning. Why should a socialist really care about an election they have no representation or power in? Well, that's when you get into the argument of other people that it's like, well, look at the people that are in power now. These socialists that are in the U.S. government now, they're building power. That's why you got to support this. You got to support these socialists running for Congress and running for the Senate and whatever else, because they're building power. You see? And it's like, oh, okay. They're building power, I see. But like, to what end, though? What power are they building? What are they planning on doing with this power? All these socialists that I see in the U.S., like in the U.S. government now, are all like voting to send more weapons to Ukraine for NATO-sponsored proxy wars. Most of them, even if they might have a critique of Israel, are still voting to send weapons to Israel and voting to support the Iron Dome and talking about Israel's right to defend itself. Even while out of the other side of their mouth, they're trying to talk about Palestine. So, like, what power are we building here? You know, you'd think if you get into the House and you have any kind of ability to influence the party, maybe when the party starts openly arming and funding a genocidal campaign in which tens of thousands of people are murdered, tens of thousands of little kids, at that point, you might take the power that you've been busy building and try and use that to stop that from happening, rather than perpetuating it. I don't know. You know, what are you there for? You know what I mean? Well, it's just one person. It's just two people. It's just five people. They can't do anything. Well, it's like, well, then what is this project about then? Like, we're in a situation, and believe me, I would prefer it were not this way. I would prefer that this were not the case. We're in a situation where these absolute lunatic reactionaries on the right in the Republican Party, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, are taking more principled stances on foreign policy than the socialists that are building power in the United States government. And I don't think they're doing it for the right reasons. I don't like these people. I don't support them. But that's just the reality. That's just the reality. They're voting against sending weapons to Ukraine. They're voting against sending weapons to Israel. What are the Democrats doing? Nothing reinforces the belief in electoralism like building a movement and then having that party step in and kneecap the popular candidate. Well, that's the thing as well, right? It's like they're like, well, just don't just complain, don't just protest, run for something, you know, vote, organize. And then so when people say, okay, we're going to get organized, we're going to vote, we're going to support this candidate, we're going to really organize and try and support this candidate, and then they step in and be like, no, not like that. And then they kneecap the person. And they use every underhanded tactic to ensure that doesn't work. You know? It's like we're doing everything that you say we're supposed to do. Pool your money and buy a weapon manufacturer's stock. Why are these protesters out there camping on college campuses? They could be purchasing shares in Lockheed Martin and then going to the board meetings and giving a Sorkin-esque speech at the board meeting with soaring rhetoric while you explain to the Lockheed Martin shareholders that they're actually like hurting people and harming people with their nonstop manufacture of bombs and weapons. Like, they know that. That's the whole point. They're weapons manufacturing companies. Like, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to stand up and be like, sir, and ladies and gentlemen, sirs and madams, I'm here to make a statement that this weapons manufacturing company is manufacturing weapons that are being used to kill people around the world. And everyone's just looking at each other like, yeah, I thought that's what we're doing here. I thought that's the whole point of this. You know, like, I don't know. So work your way to the top and tear it down. Just step over everyone on your way to get there. Compromise all your values to get there, to get your foot in the door. And then by the time you have the ability to actually make a change, you're going to be in a good place. But no, they're going to own you. They already own you. Can we escort this person out, please? You own literally one share. You don't get to tell us like what the direction of the company is. Because you purchased one share in Lockheed Martin. Well, thank you for your advice. Thank you for your stance. You become a face-eating leopard to stop the leopards from eating faces. That's right. You simply spend decades becoming one of the face-eating leopards. And then when you get to the point, you're just like, hey, stop it. Knock it off. Knock it off, you guys. It's so silly. I let the leopard eat me so I can change him from the inside. Exactly. There we go, Husker. And listen, if any of the people that I'm kind of like subtweeting right now, if they turn around one day and do a heel turn on the American ruling class and fucking smack Nancy Pelosi with a chair and take over the party and institute American socialism, okay, you know what? I'll apologize. I'll say I was wrong. I was not familiar with your game. I wasn't paying attention. I'll apologize, but I just don't think that's what's going to happen, though, unfortunately. I would be happy to be wrong, believe me. Nothing would make me happier to be wrong about that. I really was in the first half moment. You know, I would be thrilled to be wrong about that. It's hard not to be cynical. Like I've said, even the people in the Democratic Party that have been good talking about Israel and talking about Palestinians are often bad on other foreign policy issues, whether it's China or Russia or Syria or whatever. So it's like even when you have people in this system like taking some kind of bold or principled or brave stance, which does happen, Rashida Tlaib is a good example, has taken a number of really bold and principled stances and takes a lot of shit for it. But then will also turn around and support U.S. foreign policy in other areas. This is the whole the incoherence of this position, that we can criticize American foreign policy here, but we're going to support it here, and here. Like, that's not... I don't understand that. You know what I mean? It's like you should know who the bad guy is here. You're actually on the bad guy team. It's not just a matter of, in this case they got it wrong, but we got to make sure they're getting all their budgets, and we got to make sure we're supporting these NATO proxy wars in Ukraine. We got to make sure we're supporting a proxy war in Taiwan. But Palestine, well, it's like, how do you not understand this basic lesson? It's all bad. We're the baddies. If you're gonna run and be part of this system, be part of this party, you got to go do it under that kind of acknowledgement. If you vote me into office, I can guarantee I'll fuck up everyone else's day while I'm there. Well, that's the thing about these like right-wing guys. And again, when I talk about this, I don't like these people. They're awful people. They have bad values. But it's like they're willing to make life miserable for like the powerful people in their own parties. And like that's why can't we see some more of that in either the United States or Canada as well? This fucking obsession with being nice and like, I gotta be nice. This is how I'm gonna like get more influence. I'm going to be nice to Nancy Pelosi, and she's going to put me on committees, and then I can like use now that I have kind of like a inside track, then I can really change things from the inside. But they're not changing shit though. You know? And a lot of these people, even though they are causing havoc in their own parties, they're still not getting completely shut out. I'll make everyone miserable. It's literally my favorite thing to do with old white people. It would be fun just as an experiment. You know what I mean? If you just got voted in and you just set your mind to be like, I'm not playing these games, just to how it would just be funny just as an experiment to see someone actually try and live that out. If I'm nice enough to Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi, surely they'll let us hit the socialism button. And the whole age thing as well is like a total mirage as well, isn't it? Because it's like, oh, it's just all these old people. Just kick out all these old people. All these old, like, geriatric, lead-poisoned boomers and above. They're running the party. Got to kick them out. There's this whole new crop, a younger generation, Richie Torres and Hakeem Jeffries and these guys. There's that one like millennial. Hey, I'm the Zoomer. I maybe even like a Zoomer. I'm the Zoomer congressional candidate. Hey, look at me. I'm doing TikTok dances. And it's like, guess what? They all support Israel. They all support the United States military. That's the whole next generation. There are people that are set up to be part of the system. Adam Johnson did a great job dispelling the old politicians are the problem myth. Yeah, I mean, Adam, that's exactly what Adam is. That's why he's like probably almost the best at what he does. You know, because he really does, in a really understandable and articulate way, challenge these kinds of ideas. Can any serious commentator tell us that making McCarthy beg for votes 15 times was not funny? Yeah, it was hilarious. And I don't forget Nima. I spoke to Nima the other day on the podcast, and it was fantastic. And it's the same thing. I saw Bernie get a lot of credit the other day for saying Gaza is like Biden's Vietnam, which is just uncontroversially true. All kinds of people saying, how dare you say that? Oh, Bernie and the Bernie bros again, you know, kneecapping the Democrats. It's like, that's an obvious statement. The idea that Gaza is Biden's Vietnam. Look at college campuses across the country all engaged in the exact same kind of protest that was happening in the late 60s and early 70s in the Vietnam War. And it became an albatross hanging around the neck of the government that was holding the bag. But like at the same moment, Bernie's like, by the way, vote for Biden. Gaza is Biden's Vietnam. We're helping commit this like brutal atrocity in Gaza. By the way, vote for the guy that's funding the genocide. Or I'm going to take a selfie with like aviators with the guy that I myself am criticizing. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to doing the next time I can do another tanky group therapy. Those are really great. I very sternly frown while I sign this funding bill. I don't know. I would just like to see in either the UK, in Canada, in the US, for people to just start fucking shit up more. If you're gonna run in these parties and as part of this like political system, and you're gonna campaign on these values, like just live it. You know, just do it. Stop playing this game. Yes, Sarah Jama is one of the only people that I see actually doing this. Yeah, we need to be smart. What is it? What does it mean? It's a great question. What does it mean? We're heading towards like climate disaster. We got the US government sponsoring one of the most horrific atrocities that we've seen in our lifetimes. What are we being smart about? The Corbyn years were really amazing when you think about it as well. Like the extent to which people in the ruling class in the UK completely lost their minds at the idea of the possibility of Jeremy Corbyn actually like wielding some kind of power. It's really just like there's nothing more radicalizing than just following, like, forget about Bernie, following the Corbyn thing from start to finish and seeing the way that the media and the ruling class in the UK in both politics and the media reacted to Corbyn, and seeing the way that I think people in the movement allowed it to happen and didn't fight hard enough. I don't want to say that no one did. Obviously, there was lots of people that I knew that were fighting desperately. I don't want to sit here from Canada and say that wasn't happening, but there was a lot of folks, I think, that were like so paralyzed by these accusations and this exact strategy that we're seeing now, and now we see that it's bullshit. You know? The exact same strategy about Corbyn that we're seeing employed every single day now. And this is what I think, like, this is why there's this sense of panic right now with our ruling class. Like, not just in Israel, not just in Canada, the United States, but like they're fucking panicking because they know that they can't go back to how things were before when it comes to our values or when it comes to Israel. They a whole generation now. The veil has been removed from their eyes, and they're seeing the reality of Israel and the Zionist project, and not just Israel, but us as well, like the West. Like we've talked about many times, it's not just about Israel, but it's about the West's whole obsession with like human rights and these values that we have. These values of press freedom, of freedom of speech, of human rights, of women's rights, of LGBTQ rights. You know? And this whole generation has seen now that, like, for what it actually is. They've seen it. They know it's just lies now. And they're trying to use this kind of strategy, the same strategy that was used to destroy the Corbyn movement. They're trying desperately to keep going to that well. And they've lost a whole generation now. Like we said, even in the UK with Corbyn, there were still people that were like, they were fighting for Corbyn. But they were still treating these accusations as being legitimate. And that was a big part of what happened with Corbyn. And also just the fact that he didn't purge everyone in the party because he was surrounded by snakes at all levels in his own party, even the people that claimed to be his allies. But these kind of arguments were still treated as being legitimate. This whole, like, anti-Semitism crisis, it was treated as legitimate. And now there's an entire generation that recognizes exactly what this is. These accusations of anti-Semitism and all this kind of fear-mongering and creating these fake moral panics. No one is buying that shit ever again. It's like, that's over. It's gone. There's a whole generation that now, for them now, Israel has become like the geopolitical, like, human rights cause of their lives, and they will never ever let it go, and they'll never forget. And that's exactly what's driving the sense of panic. And they're just like, everything that they're doing, it's like, it's almost incomprehensible. It seems irrational, and maybe it is, because it's just like, this is a ruling class that is completely panicked. Let's ban TikTok. Let's ban TikTok. Let's just break up all these protests. Let's arrest everyone that says that doesn't want to hug and kiss Israel. You know? Let's just arrest everyone. Let's make it illegal to say Israel bad. Let's make it illegal to say basic and make it hate speech to say basic facts about Israel. You know? None of this is like actually improving the situation for Israel and its supporters. It's all just feeding into itself and becoming even more of a, like, you're just radicalizing a generation even further. So I think that explains the kind of a lot of their behavior. Over the last 7 months, they're just like, they're panicked. They've lost it. You know, They've been trying to keep a strict control, firm control over this narrative for years and years and years and years. And it's gone now. It's over forever. The Western left needs to be learned to accept being demonized. They talk about Cuba sending doctors abroad and building schools in disaster zones like it's a war crime, but we can never be acceptable to the liberals. Yeah, I agree. And it's, in fact, Matron's Militia, it's like when these demonization campaigns come, you have to step into it. And you have to wear it with a badge of honor, not try to wriggle around and try to avoid it. You know, this is the way they use socialism for years. I think this guy's a socialist. No, I'm not. I hate socialism. Look at how much I hate it. I'm going to vote for this, and I'm going to say this, and throw everything, do everything I can to ensure that you can never say that. And there's a whole generation of people that are just like, no, I don't support Israel. No, I don't think Israel has a right to defend itself. Yes, I am a socialist. They absolutely melt down when you just lean into what they say. Well, that's what I mean. I've been talking about, lots of people over the last 6-7 months have said a lot of things about me, but it's just, you realize, I talked a little bit about this on Friday, but all that power gets taken away. This power to manipulate you, manipulate your thoughts, manipulate your speech. You take that away from them the moment you just say, I don't care. You know? When you try to equivocate or apologize or shut it down or bend over backwards to avoid this kind of criticism or scrutiny, it's then you give them that power over you. When you just say, I don't care, fuck you, all of a sudden, that's why people freak out. Because they're like, what? That's not how that's supposed to work. And you just take away all that power from them. That's not how the game works. The thing that annoys me the most is Westerners who talk about freeing the third world and ending neocolonialism. And then when I talk about America taking a hit in order for that to happen, that's a bridge too far. Yeah. What do you mean my quality of life might diminish? I don't remember agreeing to that. So yeah, it's a crazy time because there's this big shift going on in people's thinking, people's mindsets, people's mentality. You see this shift happening in real time. And people are really losing it as a result. I think I had something else that I wanted to talk about, and I might have lost it.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Risk Inverse, thanks for getting things rolling here with 3 gifted subs. I really appreciate that, Risk Inverse. Thank you. And if anyone else wants to support the work that I do on here, please do subscribe. If possible, if you can. It's Monday morning. And as you know, the only way that I'm able to do this program each and every day, which some people apparently enjoy tuning into sometimes, the only way that I'm able to do this show is if the little number at the bottom of the screen goes up. I don't like it any more than you do, but if you can, please do subscribe and support the work that I do right here on twitch.tv. You can support me, support the community, get all the tiny little images, all the emotes.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Kijiji, for gifting a sub to your boy, Scotty. Eventually, Scotty will tune into this program. It would be really funny to turn like a major sports person or like celebrity into a Marxist. That would be very funny. Imagine if we turned Scotty Barnes into this like this principled anti-imperialist. That would be fantastic. I think he's weird enough for it to be possible. We need to get Kyrie Irving State and Revolution. Because, he has moments, Kyrie Irving, where it's like, oh, this guy's talking a lot of sense. This guy clearly has some really good values. And then sometimes we'll just go off in these random directions. He's someone that did actually lean a little bit too hard into like genuine, actual anti-Semitism. And then, of course, had to like apologize to like the ADL. We got to get this guy to read Parenti. We need to get some major celeb to read Black Shirts and Reds. You already have renowned Maoist La China. That's right, La China. Kyrie said some bad stuff, but being forced to apologize to the ADL is a war crime. Yeah, like on that case, he should have just like refused, I think, to deal with the ADL. It's really crazy to see some of the like language that we're starting to see now about who's radicalizing our youth and all this stuff. And we've talked now on this show going on 4 years about like the new Red Scare, but I think we're really only barely scratching the surface of that new Red Scare. And that's amazing too, because it's like, I grew up in the era where it was universally recognized that McCarthyism and the Red Scare was like a dark chapter in American history, and it was wrong. And we're headed right back there, maybe even worse. Like, we are really headed right back in that same direction. You see it with the NYPD using this kind of language. Who's radicalizing our kids? These pro-Palestine protesters, they're organized. There's socialists infiltrating these movements and organizing these movements. I think we're going to head back there, especially if more war breaks out. Like if we end up really going down that really, really dark path. I think we're really genuinely headed towards this new McCarthyist era. Which again, it's just amazing. Like we recognized at some point that was universally a awful period of American history. And we're going right back in that same kind of level of like discourse, that exact same kind of like political climate. We'll get a House Select Committee of Woke Activity. That's right. Do you know, or have you ever associated with anyone who's woke? If war with China breaks out, all of us in chat are getting packed up. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm like, if they really start policing people's speech or locking people up, it's like there's going to be But then I was like, well, there's so many people, though. There's so many people that espouse these views. Like, certainly they can't go after everyone. But then I think, like, oh, but I've been doing that myself publicly and, like, with, like, a platform. So I'm for sure fucked. I think some people might be able to just, like, escape that kind of situation. Not me, though. They're going to totally come for me. They're already policing our speech. Yeah, I mean, that's, you self-censor. Like, that's, we got to a point for a long time that people police their own speech, you know? Their moments come and you shut the fuck up because you know that if you say the wrong thing, you can lose work, you can lose social status, you can lose access. And that's what I think, like, even we're still not even totally deprogrammed for that. Like, there's still been times in the last 7 months that I've definitely self-censored and suppressed my own speech and tried to make certain views palatable to certain people. Though maybe less, you know, I'm pretty outspoken. You know, but yeah, our speech is policed because we have all these economic conditions that are put in place on our speech. You know, you need a job to have health care or pharmacare or dental care. You speak out, you lose your job. Simple as that. Don't speak out. Don't worry, the free speechers will defend our right to the death. I know. Thankfully, we have these dedicated, principled defenders of democracy on our side. I feel like my education didn't really say McCarthyism was bad because anti-communism is bad.
Trying again. Wow, 32 months. If a year was 8 months, that would be 4 years. Alas.
GMO Radio. Thanks for the 32 months resub at tier 2. That is. If a year was 8 months, that would be 4 years. That's true. But 32 months, still a lot. That's still a lot of months. And thanks a lot, GMO Radio, for the resub. I feel like my education didn't really say McCarthyism was bad because anti-communism is bad, but because it was so rabid and liberals got caught in the crossfire. Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is that now you have liberals promoting this new McCarthyism and they themselves are going to get caught up in it again this time. These people are stupid. These people are unable to learn basic lessons. They have no basic pattern recognition. They're absolutely going to get caught up in it as well. Destiny's chat has been targeting Dan Simpson, saying he has a mullet. You, on the other hand, have a true mullet, and I think you should do the fusion dance. Weenus, I don't know if I know what the fusion dance is. I just don't want to fuck around with any of those weirdos, with that person or anyone that follows that guy. Like, I've talked about him enough. I wouldn't mind going, like, back and forth with some of these fucking assholes, but it's like they keep getting people banned. Like, this is what I don't get. These people are such cowards. I saw Left Flank Vets got targeted. I don't even know if Marcus is back or if Marcus is still banned. But like, what? We can't even talk? We can't even talk about each other and make fun of each other without your dipshit fans going in and deliberately, like, deplatforming you for spurious reasons? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, I know, Alexandro. It's like, it's ridiculous. So that's it. It's like, I don't want to mess around with any of these people because it's like, I don't mind going back and forth or whatever. If anyone wants to react to my content and call me a tanky, whatever, I don't care. I don't give a shit. But I do care, though, if your weird fans start mass reporting my channel because we disagree on something and then I lose my primary source of income. I actually do care about that. Yes, Spaceman, I believe this is the definitive Che biography. This is the fusion dance.
To get it started, the two of you will stand right next to each other. Then go like this, and make sure your arms are straight. Then you say, phew! You'll approach each other with outstretched arms, moving exactly 3 steps over. And once you got that, you say, Jean! Quarter turn, and watch the angle of your knee. Ha! Now watch. Point your fingers parallel, and don't forget the angle of your legs. It's very important.
Well, that was interesting direction, but I need to see it in full practice, though. Debate is the mind killer. Debate is the little death that brings total obliteration. There are some people that I would like to bring total obliteration to on this platform. That's what I mean. Like, I wouldn't mind. Like, I don't care about having a back and forth. I don't care what people want to say about me. You know, that's fine. If you in your chat want to say that I support Hamas, I support terrorism, like, what? I can't stop you. Go for it. But, like, I have no interest in, like, getting into some back and forth where I'm going to be deplatformed because of your deranged fucking fans. No, thank you. Because you're going to be going on TV and talking about how Hamas uses cookies to make rocket fuel or whatever. Like, does this guy just he has some kind of like fetish with embarrassing himself? I think like that must be it, right? He has some kind of humiliation thing. That's got to be it. I mean, he's even talked about certain... Now I'm doing the thing that I said I wasn't going to do. I'm doing the thing. But he's even talked about, like, personal stuff, you know? Which I think would reinforce that theory. Anyway. He's a sub. Well, I mean, fuck. You can. There's nothing wrong with being a sub. Nothing wrong whatsoever. But have some self-respect, though. You know, Jesus. It's not mutually exclusive. You can do, but you can have both. Lord. Guy or cat ears on stream say otherwise. Other guy has a humiliation fetish. See, the thing is, I don't have a humiliation fetish. I sometimes do humiliate myself for other people's like entertainment. You know, that's, you know, I get that. I don't get some kind of a weird satisfaction from it, though. That's what I would push back against. I do silly stuff on here all the time. I make people laugh at my silly antics. You know, I guess it's entertaining. But I don't get any kind of like a deep like feeling from that. Like, I really don't. I get normal satisfaction from it in the form of subscriptions. That's right. Yeah, I'm more like a clown. Okay, now we're getting too deep into the humiliation stuff. Anyway, some real sickos out here, folks. Do you think Drake has humiliation fetish? I don't know. Like, I paid like surface level attention to the Drake Kendrick stuff. I'm also just like a 40-year-old man, you know.
Why so serious? You want to know how I got these subs?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe, for the 200 bits. I don't know. I just like, I don't really listen to either of those artists. You know, I'm just glad everyone's having fun. You know, I don't really have a stake. I don't really have opinion or a take on it. It's not really for me. I don't think I'm the audience for that. There's a difference between being silly with your chat and displaying your sexual impotence through cookie debates. Yeah, I agree. There's a big difference. You should go on DJ Academic stream and give your opinion on the beef. I don't know. Should I do that though? I don't know who that is. I don't think that would be very entertaining. I'm just glad everyone's having a good time, you know? That's all. My question is how they're producing songs back to back in such little time. Yeah, I mean, I will admit though, just from paying attention to it on a surface level, seeing Kendrick have like multiple songs in the chamber ready to go, that was quite funny. And he's certainly not holding back either. But once again, 40-year-old man, not really the target audience. Drake has a leak. But now Drake's saying it was like a double agent. And now I'm talking about it. Drake's claiming that that he's got a double agent. Secretly writing raps about all my haters just in case the day comes. I've got beef raps against every single one of the chatters that's on the list. And you know who you are. You know who you are. If you're on the list, I've got a rap ready to go. The moment you cross me, I'm dropping the track. It's like mutually assured destruction. If anything ever happens to me, all the diss tracks are going to launch simultaneously. Deploy all bars. It's inescapably true that Drake is corny. I agree with that. And a lot of troubling accusations. I'll say that as well. I said that funny. Anyway, it was a rough weekend for Toronto. Drake got nuked from orbit, and then the Leafs very predictably lost in 7. And I actually regret not saying this on the stream. Because I was thinking it and I forgot to mention it on the stream, because when it was game 5 and I think there was some talk in the stream like, oh, it's the Leafs funeral tonight, I really, really felt fervently, really strongly that the Leafs were going to win game 5 and 6 and would then lose in the 7th game. Like, I really, really felt strongly about that. Because like there was, after game 5, there was all kinds of Leafs fans that were like, they were out. They were like, I can't anymore. I quit. I'm not watching the team next year. I can't do this anymore. I just can't. I'm finished. I can't deal with this anymore. But that wasn't enough though. What had to happen is they had to be pulled back in. They had to believe again. They had to go from that. They had to go from that depth. They had to get pulled back in to believe again. And then they got to be crushed one final time, even worse. It was the most predictable thing. I mean, I really regret not saying that. We love to have hope. You're a real sicko too, Mistress of Insanity, because you're not even Canadian. Now I'm being one of those guys. This person's not even Canadian. She likes the Leafs. You actually selected a team known for having a history of destroying the dreams and hopes of its fan base. And from an outside perspective, you're like, this is the team for me. This is the team for me. I like to be punished. I love pain. I love the pain. Yeah, they got the first goal of the game in the 3rd period, and they got about 90 seconds of happiness. They got 90 seconds of happiness. Oh my God, we're going to do it. We're actually going to do it this time. 90 seconds. They were allowed to have happiness and to have hope. It was like Bernie after Nevada. That's right. There is always next year. I'm sure next year will be the year. I swear, like, and it's like, I'm not even like a hater about this either. Like, I'm not really a hockey fan. I'm not really a Leafs fan. Like, I live in Montreal, so technically we have like a long-standing beef and rivalry with the Toronto fans. I honestly just feel bad for Toronto fans. Like, I want them to succeed. I want them to be happy. I would like for them to just feel it's a sense of happiness for once. As soon as I saw that they were playing the Bruins in the playoffs, I was just like, you poor bastards. You poor bastards. It was my first time watching a full series. I'm so glad I'm not a hockey fan. Honestly, Greasy Groob, like when you're actually like invested in hockey, like if you really care and you're really passionate about a team, watching your team in the playoffs is like genuinely unpleasant. Like, it's not fun, it's not cool, it's genuinely like upsetting. Like, it's not fun to do. It's just stress. It's pure stressful. It's just pure stress. I think I'm rooting for the Panthers. I probably won't watch anymore. I don't know. I watched a little bit of that Leafs game and then I moved on. I would like to see a Canadian team win. Like how it's been since 93, I think the last time a Canadian team won the cup. Like, that's actually insane. I've been watching the Raps lose for so many years. Once they won, I've been much happier. Same with me, Greasy Groob. Even though in the 5 years since, it's been somewhat painful to follow the Raptors, that winning that championship really did take the real misery out of that, you know? Even when things don't go great, I have a kind of like, you know, I would be a lot more bitter about those years if they hadn't won that championship. I've been enjoying NBA playoffs a lot more than NHL. Yeah, I've been really enjoying the NBA playoffs. I would like to pay the Pacers to win. I think the Pacers and Knicks are going to be a good series. I really think this T-Wolves Nuggets series is going to be really good. What's the other in the West? It's Dallas and OKC. That's going to be good as well. Yeah, damn, the NBA playoffs this year are really good. I don't even know what's going to happen. I'm not sure. I think I predicted Nuggets Celtics on the podcast the other day, but I really have no idea what's going to happen. I want to see Siakam carry the dead corpse of this franchise all the way. That's another thing too, is I love seeing, I can tune into that series and I can see like Kyle playing OG in the first round. I get to see Pascal playing OG in the second round. I see all my guys, all my large sons that I watch grow up. Watching all my large sons play together on this big stage. It's wonderful. I can't abide sneaker squeaks. Is that like a trigger for you? Taught them everything they know. That's right. I mean, as you know, folks, I am a hooper, so That's absolutely correct. I guess we should probably get to talking about some serious shit soon, shouldn't we? Not that this isn't serious. I would like to know if there's any updates on this ceasefire or this Rafah offensive. It's 100% dead. No, that's good. I'm sure Hamas is going to still be blamed for that. Mavs Thunder, that's a matchup I definitely enjoyed when it was KD and the boys. Yeah. And the Thunder have, like... It's sad because when I was younger, I was a Sonics fan. So I've always had kind of a thing about the Thunder because they stole the Sonics. But, like, really impressive how they drafted so well in those years and became kind of forced just through the draft that way. And now it's like they've totally rebooted and they're totally set up for the next, like, 5-10 years now. Some of the best players in the league. Israel ignoring it. Media starting to claim Hamas never agreed to a deal. Brandon on the phone sternly speaking to Bibi as we speak. Well, exactly, because they want them to sign the ceasefire deal and they don't want them to invade Rafah. It seems like both of those things. The ceasefire, no ceasefire, and Rafah invasion. Which has been like I don't want to say a red line for the U.S. government because there are no red lines. They've repeatedly made that clear, but that's been their big thing. No, we can't support that. We'll support everything up to that. And now we're going to see how true that was. I think I'm going to get just a glass of water before we continue here. Just to remind people once again, if you can, to please subscribe to the program, if possible. Please help me keep the show on the air. Please help support the work that I do here on Twitch by subscribing. It's $5. It is completely free. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can convert that to a Twitch Prime sub very easily. You can gift subs or bits or whatever it is. Every little bit helps. It all keeps me It all helps me to keep this show on the air. The professional broadcaster and journalist who has the ability to speak coherently. That's me.
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Adrienne, hello. Thank you very much for the raid. Hello, Adrienne, Vixen, Raiders. Thank you for joining the stream. I'm Rob. Hello, it's nice to see you. How was the Adrienne stream today? I hope it was good. I hope your weekend was nice. I'm still just chit-chatting over here. I've made a few feints towards talking about serious news and stuff, and then I got sucked back in talking about other silliness. Well, I guess I should take a look for... we have an Al Jazeera piece on this, like, proposed ceasefire deal. Rob's getting Chad in the air to draw a foul. As I was saying prior to the raid there, that if you can, please do subscribe to this program. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can convert that to a Prime sub very easily and subscribe totally free of charge. Get all the benefits of being a TRRS community member. I'm going to really try to hit my targets and goals this week, if possible. And I can only do that with the generous support of the viewers and listeners and chatters and the wonderful, fine folks in the TRRS community. So if possible, please subscribe to this program that you're watching right now.
We're breaking into our regular program.
Like right now, that's right. This is now, sir. Everything that you're seeing now is happening now. What happened to then? That was then. We missed it. When? Just now. All the benefits of a cult and none of the hassle. Maybe there's a bit of hassle, you know. I don't want to sit here and say that there's no hassle, but mostly no hassle. All the really dark stuff is planned for years from now. Like, that's way out in the horizon. You know what I mean? All the really bad shit. We don't have to worry about that now. That's all later. We can worry. That's a worry for future Rob, for future Max, for future Gwynny, for future Perfect Speller, for future Comrade Social Distancing. We don't need to worry about that stuff now. You know? That's a problem for later. So, before we move on, does anyone, don't worry about it, that's level 48. We're barely even scratching the surface of that. There's only now. It's a problem for future Rob and future Shot. Who cares about them? That's what I'm often saying. So the Associated Press is saying U.S. State Department press briefing after Hamas accepts Gaza ceasefire proposal. So I'm kind of confused about this because everything I've heard about this has said that Israel does not accept and that Hamas is accepted and that Israel doesn't accept and in fact has been going through with this Rafah invasion. Before we move on though, folks, I hate to stick on this. It's been a pretty miserably failed call to action so far. Now it's psychologically a block for me. Now it's mentally a block. I'm going to try one final time here to encourage people to please, if you can, subscribe to the show, subscribe to TRRS, help support the work that I do. I do this show every single day, 12 o'clock to 4 p.m. I mean, that's maybe a little bit not always the exact times. That's okay, Diego. Diego, if anyone deserves to take a little break from gifting subs, it would be you. So please don't worry about it. You're immune from my psychological warfare tactics this month, okay? I'm not saying indefinitely, but like this month, yes. Sometimes it's from 12:30 to 12:56 and then again later. Exactly. We don't know. So is there a generous hero that wants to very bravely and coolly support this program so I can move on from this call to
Count
action.
on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Kijiji, thank you for gifting sub to Terrence Ross. We're getting all the former Raptors.
Rob to talk you through all this.
We're getting all the former Raptors on the show. We're going to radicalize somebody. Perfect Speller, thanks for the gifted sub as well.
Good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And Canned Clam 69, thank you for the gifted sub. Also, very much appreciated from every single one of you. Thank you. Let's look at this Al Jazeera piece. This is from just 45 minutes ago. Hamas says it accepts ceasefire deal proposal. I'm going to put this on. I'm going to get a glass of water as well. I'm quite thirsty. I'm a thirsty boy.
With breaking news here, a leading Hamas official has told Al Jazeera that the group has now accepted a ceasefire proposal put forward by Egyptian and Qatari mediators. Mediators have been scrambling to negotiate a ceasefire deal as Israel threatens an offensive in Gaza's southern city.
Rob to talk you through all this.
Bert Hampson. Bert Handsome. Jesus. People are like, why would I subscribe to this guy? I can barely even talk. Bert Handsome. Thank you for the gifted sub as well. Very kind of you. Thank you. I only gifted one sub, but I'm calling all my weapons manufacturer representatives asking them to sponsor Rob too. That's all I can ask. That is all I can ask. Perfect Speller. Thank you for that.
Of Rafah. No later than this morning, Israel told 100,000 Palestinians living in eastern Rafah to evacuate the area. We're going to get over the next few hours as much as we can about this, as much as we can understand and know about this. Where we are right now, to repeat, if you're just joining us, is that Hamas has communicated that it is accepting a ceasefire proposal. And it has said this to the two main negotiators, which are Qatar and Egypt. As you know, negotiations have been taking place recently in the Egyptian.
Thank you, Onyx, for the 18 months of Prime. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Capital, Cairo. Tariq Abu Azoum is joining us from inside the Gaza Strip. You're in Rafah, Tariq. First of all, are you hearing anything on your end about this?
Yes, what we do here is that Hamas movement has told Al Jazeera that they have agreed on the ceasefire proposal being initiated by the regional mediators, including Egypt and Qatar. The chief of the political bureau, Ismail Haniya, has been calling the head of the Egyptian intelligence, informing and delivering the positive response from the movement regarding the proposal being initiated by the Egyptian authorities. Now, clearly, as a result of that decision, Palestinians, as they hear this announcement by Hamas, they have been celebrating that the announcement was a clear positive step being taken from the Palestinian side, as they are completely happy that this step can help to prevent a potential military incursion for Rafah district. Now, people right now here are so happy, and there is a great sense of optimism among them as they are chanting that it's time right now for return, it's time right now for a ceasefire. That is right now the situation in Rafah, this area that has been widely attacked since the early hours of this morning. Now, what we do also hear among residents is that they are so optimistic and happy about this step, as they are waiting for a further confirmation from the Israeli side about the possibility
Count
to...
on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Dan Wally, thanks for the 18 months, tier 1. Thank you, Dan. And hello, Mon Jackerness. Thank you.
Approach to a ceasefire deal, as they are completely dependent right now on the efforts being made by regional mediators to bridge the gaps of disagreement between Hamas and Israel, in light of their ongoing hopes to get to hear an official announcement for the ceasefire within the coming hours or days.
Okay, Tariq, help us take in the scene around you, because I'm hearing car horns, I'm hearing people shouting, I'm hearing what sound like scenes of elation and happiness. Take a moment to look around you, listen to what people are saying. What exactly are they sharing? What are the thoughts and words that they're sharing?
Yeah. Yeah, now people here, as I can let you see right now, the cameraman is moving the camera, is that people are celebrating now. They are celebrating in the entire vicinity of Al-Kuwaiti Hospital. They are so happy about that step that has been taken by the Palestinian side, by Hamas movement, regarding their acceptance to the ceasefire agreement. Now,
I want to believe that there's a chance that the ceasefire could hold, but it's hard not to be really cynical about it.
For the return, you can right now see how people are celebrating. You can see children, you can see how elderly people, young men are chanting and so excited about the announcement of this step from the Hamas side. They have been, in fact, under wide attacks within the past couple of weeks and days, and they are right now, everyone, including the children, are happy about that step.
Are they bombing right now?
That Rafah invasion will bring.
It's kind of painful to see these celebrations. I really want to believe.
But now they are so optimistic, and that was completely no longer was afforded in the past couple of days. But now with this announcement, the situation on the ground sounds really optimistic about this step, as they are waiting to hear the announcement as soon as possible.
Tariq, do you think you're able to speak to anybody around you? Go ahead, take your time and
where is this report from? It's from Al Jazeera.
Speak English. Do you think you can speak to the people around you so that we can hear their thoughts and reactions?
Well, right now,
live from Rafah.
I will try to host one of the Palestinians, but they are completely. Everyone is absolutely happy about this. They are just right now crazy about this step that's been taken, as they appreciate so much. There is a great sense of happiness right now among those people. I'll try within the coming hours to bring more Palestinians to speak about how they evaluate this step on the ground.
Tariq, the area where you are is, you've been there for a few weeks now. You've been pushed south multiple times since the beginning of this conflict. Is one of the last areas where, so many Palestinians have been displaced to, and we're hoping it would be safe, but as we've reported countless times, hasn't been safe, and Rafah continues to be struck. Right now, I see people running around the streets, and I see more people around you than I've seen in, I think, weeks. What does that tell us?
Well, generally, the vast majority of Gaza's population in Rafah are completely experiencing heavy bombardment from land and sea, as they have been going through really difficult weeks. But this announcement right now for Palestinians is a kind of bringing a sense of relief and tranquility among Palestinians, that they might witness an end for the fighting. They are really believing that this ongoing mounting pressure by the American administration and by regional mediators can be fruitful to stop the conflict between Hamas and Israel. They are so exhausted. They have been completely traumatized in the course of the past couple of months, and they were all the time asking about the time for the ceasefire. Right now, as the first time ever, they have been hearing an official confirmation from Hamas sides regarding the ceasefire agreement. They are absolutely optimistic, as they believe that this step will definitely reduce the caps of disagreement between Hamas and Israel, and it will help to contribute to increase the possibility for approaching to a ceasefire agreement within the foreseeable future.
Tariq, can I ask you how you're feeling right now? Because you're a reporter, yes, and you give us the facts as dispassionately and objectively as you can, and you've been doing this for months, but you're also a Palestinian living in Gaza who's been yourself in danger. You've had to be displaced, and you've had to move your family and your relatives multiple times. How do you feel right now, hearing that Hamas has accepted a ceasefire proposal?
Well, what we do believe is that we have been completely under intense bombardment, and we have been going through really difficult times, including reporters, including the crew on the ground, those displaced Palestinians who are completely celebrating, including children, women, elderly, and everyone in the Palestinian community. That is an opportunity to get a sense of relief and even mitigation about this. And in order to know more about this, we're joined right now by a Palestinian man who will speak about how the situation and how this kind of announcement will really represent and means for Palestinians.
1 sec.
Hello. What do you see and what do you think of this announcement by Hamas with regards to accepting the Egyptian proposal for a ceasefire? This is very nice and hopefully would pave the way for the return to Gaza. Do you expect that a deal would be announced soon for a swap deal and a declaration of ceasefire? We hope Allah would facilitate this and we return to our homes. Where did you move from? I am from Gaza itself. Would you like to go back after they announce ceasefire? And what do you say to the world? My message is that I hope that we have the patience and return to Gaza. Thank you.
I'm going to take another one right now.
Yeah, Chet Verte, totally, yeah. I mean, as much as like the press outfits are supposed to protect people from violence, as we've seen in the last 6 months, it's made people a deliberate target of Israeli violence. So yeah, you're right. It is an element. Not only is it brave to be a journalist in Gaza right now, but it is just putting a target on your back. Not only has Israel murdered multiple journalists, but murdered their families as well. Multiple examples of this. Did you see the statistic that more journalists have died since October than the entirety of Vietnam and World War II? No, I didn't see that. It wouldn't be surprising, like we're saying, considering it's not just collateral damage, but the way that journalists have been deliberately targeted. By all means, though, let's continue lecturing everyone around the world about our commitment to freedom of the press. Let's continue doing that. Definitely. While we pay for this.
By Hamas about the ceasefire. First of all, praise be to Allah that they didn't invade Rafah, and we greet the people of Gaza for their safety, and we would like to thank all those who stood by our side and by Gaza.
The most moral army in the rules-based order. That's right.
Where you were removed from? Yes, from Beersheba. I am from Rafah.
Now we are going to take another Palestinian man. How do you see this kind of announcement by Hamas side?
It's very important for our issue, Palestinian issue, and about Gaza Strip. We went political isolation, not just humanitarian. For that, we must struggle to have independence from the Israeli occupation, to stop the occupation to Gaza Strip and to West Bank. For that, we must struggle and to see the international community stop the Israel escalation against Gaza Strip. This is the damage that by Israel, by the air forces, by the military, all the weapons that used against Gaza Strip. It's very horrible and very terrible for us. For that, we see this step very important for us, and to back to our houses in North Gaza or in the west of Gaza Strip. Our families very sadness in these days, but in this evening after this announcement, we see the majority of our people very pleasure.
And do you expect that you will return back to your house in the north of the Gaza Strip when the ceasefire?
Thank you, Reject Nihilism. Welcome. Thanks for joining the stream.
That all the families back to their houses. This is very important. Or to stay in the Gaza, in the north of Gaza, it's very dangerous for them.
The Guardian reports that Israel is exploring the proposal but containing operational Rafah actions. like I said, I really want to believe that this could be some kind of sustained ceasefire, continuing operational Rafah actions. I really want to believe. Like, you see the hope here that people in Rafah have right now. You see the kids smiling and celebrating. I would love to believe that this is going to be an extended ceasefire. As I was saying, it's really hard not to be cynical about that, though. So we're just going to have to follow it and see how it plays out.
And for our future, for that we hope to rebuilding the universities, our structure, everything that Israel damaged and destroyed, to rebuild that.
Thank you so much for your time, and we're going to take another Palestinian young man to ask him about his impression about this announcement from Hamas side. Now, how do you see this announcement by Hamas regarding their agreement and approval for the ceasefire?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Mr. Tariq, for having me in this interview. I'm going to say that we feel so happy that finally Hamas has agreed about the ceasefire, but now we are waiting for Israeli agreement, and we hope that they will say it. It's after 212 days of genocides, of displacement, of killing children, women, and elderly, and even nurses and doctors. It's not about genocide, it's not about things, it's about time that we have shown the world.
I've heard that a couple times, reject nihilism, and my answer is the same every time. He's a dead ringer for me, okay? That's all. He looks like me.
We have survived after this war. It's not just a war by Israel on Palestinian. It's a war from the world against the Palestinian here in Gaza.
I heard he looks like everyone who wears glasses. That's right.
But yeah, we have survived 12 to 200 days from most advanced technical weapons against us. We will not forget, and we will not forgive. Everything we have witnessed in this war will written in the history. The Palestinians have survived, and we will survive until we get our freedom. The world is calling for freedom, but we don't find any freedom here.
And do you want to return back to the house that you were displaced from?
Of course. If we travel, what's the benefits of our defending and surviving?
Bleep Lord, this MF just said OB. This MF really just said OBS, stolen valor, glasses usage. Wow. OB. Interesting. OB Uso. This is a good point too as well, Diego. So Israel loves to get a bunch of murders in before a deadline. They bombed like maniacs in January 2009, just before Obama took office, because they wanted to murder as many Palestinians as possible before who they mistakenly believed was less than a warmonger took office. Yeah, I mean, that's important to point out. And the question for me as well is, like, because we all want a ceasefire. We want the killing to stop. We want the violence to stop. The question is, what if the ceasefire does, if Israel does agree to this proposal, let's say that does happen, is there any appetite for anybody that's been through this over the last 7 months to go back? Okay, now we're going to go back to just the average everyday violence of the apartheid system that we had prior to this. Right, we're just going to go back to the regular everyday standard normalized violence of the occupation. Is that like an option for people? You know, I genuinely don't know. Maybe that might seem like a more attractive offer than the 7 months of mass murder. But like, that's been my question all along. Like, how does a sense of normalcy return? Like, do you just go back to how things were before? You know, Palestine's still no closer to actually having a state of their own. Even in any kind of like tepid proposals for this, there's this like demilitarized state, and Israel has repeatedly said they're not interested in that. They're not interested in a two-state solution. They're not interested in like any real change to like the nature of the occupation, such as it is. So I think that's kind of the question. We do want a ceasefire, and we want the violence and the killing and the murders to stop, and the atrocities, the massacres. It needs to stop. But is there a actual concrete proposal or like a real path forward to a way of like changing the situation and for the better, you know? That's kind of the big question for me, and I think for a lot of others.
There's no worry that if we travel, if we lift our lands. We have survived to return. We have survived so we can call for our freedoms.
Thank you so much for your valuable time, and that's how Palestinians here, children, young people, elderly, are really seeing this announcement being made and approval being made by the Hamas movement side, as everyone is really optimistic about the next steps that might be taken within the coming hours regarding the arrival to a ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel that will help to bring an end for the hardships and all kinds of misery Palestinians have been going through.
Tariq, your previous guest was making a very, very important point at this particular point in time. Hamas has accepted, they say that they've accepted this ceasefire proposal by Qatar and by Egypt. We need now to hear from Israel. I mean, Israel has signaled, and its prime minister has signaled multiple times that they were going to invade Rafah, come what may, deal or no deal. So, you know, we need to know. We don't have a full picture of what we're actually looking at and what really is happening right now until we hear from the Israeli side. So I just wanted to put that out there for you, the people you talk to, and also for our viewers, you know, who will be tuning in, trying to understand exactly what's going on. I want to ask you this, Tariq. You have lived through multiple wars with Israel. Have you ever seen scenes like the ones you are witnessing now?
Well, Cyril, personally, I've been experiencing multiple wars. We are talking about 2009 aggression on the Gaza Strip, 2012, including 2014, which was really bloody for me, and 2021 escalations in 2022, and right now 2023, which from my own side is considered to be the bloodiest. I've lost my house, I've lost my entire city that has completely turned into a pile of rubble. We have been talking about being internally displaced for multiple times from a city to another in order to guarantee the full safety of my personal level, and also on my family level. We have been talking about that we have been unfolded with different kinds of attacks from land, air and sea, as we have been lucky to survive till this very moment, as the Gaza's Strip has been under wide military offensive since October the 7th now. We personally have been doing our best in order to take all the safety precautions, but this war sounds completely different in terms of the unprecedented scale of destruction being caused on the entire Gaza Strip, alongside to the point that the number of death tolls across the Gaza Strip is so incredibly high. We're talking about more than 34,500 Palestinians being killed till now, with more than 70,000 Palestinians have been injured, and that did not happen in any
70,000 injured. That's just incomprehensible.
For the vast majority of Palestinians, there are peace seekers who are looking to live peacefully in a tranquil atmosphere, as the vast majority of us right now have been exhausted from the deadly consequences of this round of fighting that till now there's no any end in sight for it. Now, with the positive response from Hamas side, we have been having more clear picture about the initiative being taken from the Palestinian side, but the vast majority of Palestinians are waiting for further confirmation from the Israeli side in order to get to a concrete base of agreement between Hamas and Israel, just to bring an end of the hostilities and to make a full cessation of all military acts that bring nothing to the ground but only destruction.
So, Tariq, I listened to what you said. You said you've been through 5 wars with Israel. My question was, have you ever seen at the end of a war, and again, I don't know if that's what we're looking at right now, but have you ever seen at any point during those wars or after those wars or as they ended, have you ever seen the scenes like the ones we're witnessing now?
Yes, certainly. I clearly remember every single time that there was an announcement for the end of the war. We've been talking about multiple announcements being made under the same circumstances throughout regional mediations that are completely has been playing a very contributing role to bring an end for the fighting. Every single time we see similar scenes as what Palestinians right now are doing, celebrations, chanting for freedom, chanting for peace.
You know that some deranged person is going to take the celebration and clothes they're wearing as a sign that they're not suffering. Exactly. Anytime I see people smiling, they're happy. They must be lying. They have to be miserable all the time. It's in the same genre of people that are like, they're going to the beach. They had pools and fields in those concentration camps. Poor people own refrigerator and flat screen TV. That's right, yeah. It's same genre.
Bring us back in memory to the days that had witnessed a proper end for the fighting, a proper end for the tragic stories and even tragic moments Palestinians have been going through. And that, I absolutely believe that we might...
There's also upwards of 10 million tons of rubble and associated heavy metals released into the air from the bombing, which will have repercussions for the next 14 years, leading to birth defects and developmental disorders, not unlike the use of depleted uranium in Fallujah, Agent Orange in Vietnam, etc. Yeah, I mean, it's a hallmark of imperialist violence. That's what I mean. It's like, yes, there needs to be a ceasefire, and I want to believe that this ceasefire can hold, but that's kind of my question about what the path forward is here. Like I said, it's not just the 40,000 dead, which will certainly go up higher. And we don't know how many people are still trapped under rubble, how many bodies haven't been recovered, how many deaths just weren't even reported because all the health infrastructure has been destroyed. Upwards of 80,000 injuries. People are going to be permanently injured for the rest of their life, psychologically scarred for their entire lives, like children and others that went through this absolute horror, depraved horror for the last 7 months. Then so that's kind of the question. Do people just forget about that? Do people just move on and just agree to just make nice? I don't know. Yeah, it's like they need to be completely dismantled or kneecapped in order for a ceasefire to hold. And as we all know, that's not what's going to happen. So I'm really trying not to be super cynical about what seems to be a happy celebratory moment for many people that have been living through this. It's just really hard not to be cynical about the possibility of this leading to some kind of meaningful, long-lasting, because it's not just a ceasefire, but it's creating conditions so that the violence doesn't continue happening over and over and over again. So if you return to the everyday violence of the status quo, the everyday violence of the occupation, it's just a guarantee before the next bombing happens or the next kind of October 7th incident. If anything, Israel has ensured in its actions in the last 7 months that there will be more incidents like that. As much as they've said over and over again, we need to make sure that never happens again. Well, they haven't defeated Hamas. They haven't destroyed Hamas. They've just engaged in this total barbaric crimes for the last 7 months. They've radicalized a whole generation, not just to people in Palestine, but people in the West as well. They've ensured that cycle of violence is just going to continue indefinitely. So there needs to be a ceasefire, but there also needs to be an actual path for a long-lasting situation where this cycle of violence is broken. And as long as the occupation continues, I just don't see how that's going to happen. Reports on Telegram of a ground invasion of Rafah starting now, checking other channels. Yeah. Again, hard not to be cynical. I think for a ceasefire to hold up, it must be forced by the UN and reinforced by the US. But as we know, that's just not going to happen. The UN has already called for a ceasefire, and it was totally ignored. Did you see the disgusting letter the Republican senators wrote to ICC threatening sanctions against it for going through with their international arrest warrants for war criminals? It's just so psychotic. It is honestly crazy. And this is the country that we're going to trust is going to maintain this kind of peace, because they would have to reinforce this. Like, I don't know. It's really hard not to be cynical about it, as I keep saying.
Such similar kinds of moments and announcement within the coming days if Israel was so serious about bringing bringing a deal to the table and accept the proposal being initiated by the regional mediators.
We got some good guys being dudes footage though. Still, that's nice.
Behind you, where are they going?
Now they are just going to their relatives, informing them that Hamas has agreed on the proposal. They are trying to, let's say, to spread the news among their members of the community. And right now they are chanting, saying that it's time of return. They are trying to celebrate. You don't know that people here have been living in makeshift shelters, which have been under wide military bombardment. The vast majority have lost their family relatives, their beloved ones, their friends, their even loved close people to their heart spot. They, despite of that, all kinds of loss that they have been going through, they are happy again when they firstly hear the announcement by Hamas side regarding the approval. It means that those people, only what do they think about is an end for the fighting, and that's absolutely a part of the who they really are, a part of their own identity, that they are only looking for peace on the ground. They have been living peacefully, suddenly the war erupted, more attacks on the ground, being internally displaced, and ending up right now with Rafah, which has been designated by the military that it's going to be a safe zone. And now with the first step being taken by the Israeli side to invade Rafah, people has reached to unprecedented level of despair and even frustration. But now this announcement has really recalled and fueled the spirit of optimism among Palestinians, who are really looking forward to hear a proper announcement of the ceasefire within the coming hours.
All right, Tariq, thank you so much.
And just on that subject, like, this is a tweet I just saw just right now, a few seconds ago. Netanyahu's office, the war cabinet, unanimously decided that the Israeli invasion of Rafah will continue. Seems the ground offensive has already begun. The scale of the attack is still unknown if it will remain limited to eastern Rafah. That was just like that's a few minutes ago. "10 hours ago, we have a piece on the fallout of Rafah offensive would be catastrophic." So I don't know. It's hard to know. It's hard to totally know exactly what's going on right now. Here's the thing, though. They can't win. They haven't been able to hold on to any part of Gaza and had to retreat from literally every battle so far. All they're doing is killing more civilians. The war is over. Yeah. I mean, what this war, as much as they try to, it's been framed in our media as being like a war against Hamas or whatever like that. It's been a war on like Palestinian children. It's been a war on hospitals and doctors and nurses and journalists. It's been a war on infrastructure. They've made no progress whatsoever with actually defeating Hamas or dismantling Hamas. Like I've talked about a number of times, all they've done is ensure that there will be more groups like Hamas if it's not Hamas itself. All that they have done, all that they've accomplished, is ensured that these kinds of groups will continue to thrive. None of these things can be defined as war. Yeah, I mean, it's always been a misnomer. It's always been like completely inaccurate to frame this as being like the Hamas-Israel war or anything like that. They don't even talk about it anymore. They gave up on talking about the tunnels and are just telling us that we're anti-Semitic. Yeah, that's right. It's true. You don't even hear that much anymore. I haven't heard anything about defeating Hamas in weeks. It's very true. We don't even they're not even bothering with the tunnels. Oh, they're building this massive terrorist center. They're just like, why even bother? Why even bother making this shit up? Like, here's CBC from 5 hours ago.
We're going to begin the hour with breaking news overnight. The Israeli military has begun ordering civilians in the southern Gaza city of Rafah to evacuate.
And if you'll recall, it's funny how CBC leads with that. They've ordered the civilians evacuate Rafah. They're in Rafah because that's where they evacuated to. That is the last place that they've ended up after evacuating everywhere else. That's supposed to be the place where they were supposed to go to not be killed. So this whole idea of like, oh, we've instructed them to leave Rafah. You know? I did mention the cookie thing briefly, Max, in a little bit of a rant that I went on, but yeah, we did talk about it. Some really, truly brilliant minds on here talking about this. I'm sure Biden and the Dems want it to end without their involvement, and they'll go ahead and claim some kind of credit to reverse the notion that they did anything. Well, I don't even know how they'd spin this. There's this whole idea that, oh, they've accepted the ceasefire, which has gone against every like narrative that's been promoted as well. There would be a ceasefire if Hamas just returned the hostages. When it's like, that's been on the table since like October 8th. That's been on the table for a long time now, this entire time. So now the U.S. government has repeatedly said, don't invade Rafah. I'm sure they would like to take credit for this possible ceasefire deal, even though they had nothing to do with it. But now you have Israel possibly still going ahead with this Rafah invasion, which would surely, I would say it would be an understatement to make it difficult to have the ceasefire deal, and also specifically going against what the United States government has repeatedly said they don't want them to do.
To move to what Israel calls an expanded humanitarian zone. Israel has repeatedly said it will launch an attack on the city, where more than 1 million civilians are currently sheltering. Despite
they're going to go to Rafah is supposed to be the humanitarian zone.
The United States not to enter Rafah. This is new video into us this morning, obtained by Reuters news agency. Some Palestinians have begun to leave eastern parts of Rafah. The Israeli military says it's using text messages, airdrop flyers, and social media to alert roughly 100,000 people to move. Israel has not provided a reason for the evacuations and has not offered any timeline. The Israeli military calls it a limited scope operation, not a wide-scale evacuation. International aid agencies are again warning any attack on Rafah would lead to humanitarian catastrophe.
Violent and extensive Israeli bombings in the eastern part of the city. Reports that occupation forces are advancing on the outskirts.
And any kind of operation here would have catastrophic circumstances for them. And our concern is, as these 100,000 people, if they choose to evacuate to the west, that it would create panic with the rest of the population, and you'd see mass movement of people to areas that are just not prepared to receive them.
The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, as it's called, said earlier this morning its team will not evacuate from Rafah. It says it will maintain a presence as long as possible.
I don't know if we ever discussed that, Joe.
Life-saving aid to Palestinians. Sarah Coates is in Tel Aviv today with more on the operation and the impact it's having on civilians in Rafah.
Well, Hamas is calling this a dangerous escalation that will have consequences. Now, it's been a very active 24 hours on the ground, a number of overnight strikes on Rafah, Israeli strikes killing at least 19 Palestinians in the coastal enclave. Now, This came after another attack late yesterday, which Hamas is claiming it emanated from Rafah. A number of rockets hitting the Kerem Shalom crossing area, killing 4 soldiers and wounding some 10 other people. Now, it now appears as though this long-feared military operation down into Rafah is set to go ahead. The IDF, as you said, has been dropping these flyers on the eastern part of Rafah, telling people to get out and to move to these humanitarian zones. Now, they are Al-Mawasi, which is on the Mediterranean Sea, down in the south, and also to move to Khan Yunis, which is a little bit further north. But according to reports coming in from the ground, these people are absolutely desperate. There's chaos on the ground, and they believe there is absolutely nowhere safe to go. Now, we are hearing in Hebrew media that the Israeli Security Cabinet did actually approve these Rafah plans overnight, with reports also that the United States was briefed last week on these plans for the Israeli military to go in. So the next few hours certainly will be crucial as these people begin to pack their things and leave. But as I did mention, they say there is nowhere safe for them to go, Heather.
Sarah, Israel's prime minister said last week Israel would go ahead and launch an attack on Rafah with or without a new ceasefire agreement with Hamas. It looks like those latest talks have stalled, and there had been, when we were talking last week, there had been some optimism. The two sides were coming closer to an agreement. So what is behind this latest setback?
Well, Heather, both sides are now trading blame for the breakdown in these talks. We've heard from Israel's Foreign Minister, Israel Katz. He came out to say that Israel agreed to significant concessions, but Hamas refused them. Now, we've also heard from Hamas.
The U.S. totally trying to take credit for it. John Kirby said today, I think it's safe to conclude that the response came as a result of or at the end of these continued discussions that Director Burns was part of, because apparently the CIA director is in Cairo right now. Yeah, you're welcome, everybody. We did it. You're welcome. 7 months in, we got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. We're bringing peace to the region. Thank you so much to America for that. Mission accomplished.
Hamas's Politburo chief, Ismail Haniyeh, he's come out to say that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister...
Break out the mission accomplished banner. Meanwhile, if this invasion is happening, you have to wonder whether any of that will be
the prime minister's office. It issued a statement
actually legitimate.
This claim is a complete lie and deliberate deception of the public. Now, there are reports that the CIA director, Bill Burns, who is right now in Qatar with talks with the Prime Minister there, that he may be here in Israel a little later today, meeting with the Prime Minister Netanyahu in Jerusalem to really try and salvage what could be left of these hostage and ceasefire talks. But certainly a lot of pressure on Netanyahu with rallies right around Israel, people calling on the Prime Minister to do any deal, do it now with Hamas and bring the remaining hostages home. Heather.
Sarah Coates from Tel Aviv. Now, let's look here at the image, the skyline of Rafah. And let me bring you some reaction that literally has come in the last few minutes. Hamas has just said in a statement, any operation in Rafah will not be a, quote, picnic for Israeli forces. We've heard from France restating opposition to any Israeli offensive into Rafah. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has called for a ceasefire again. And the EU's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, he is demanding Israel refrain from any planned incursion. Here's what he had said just a few moments ago. Israel's evacuation orders to civilians in Rafah portend the worst. More war and famine. It is unacceptable. He too called for an immediate ceasefire and the release of all hostages being held by Hamas. We'll bring you further reaction, of course, as we look for signs there on the skyline of the ongoing airstrikes. Any word of any sort of military offensive in Rafah, we will be bringing you all of that detail as soon as new information comes in.
Well, I mean, that's the whole other thing. They're talking about Israel not being able to hold territory. They don't need to hold territory, just destroy it and everyone in it. I mean, that's a whole other thing as well, right? And like, if there is a ceasefire, and again, I hope there is, but it's like, what homes are people supposed to go back to? You know, we've seen images of Gaza. It literally looks like multiple nuclear bombs have gone off there. So it's like, there, we did it. We're not bombing anymore. Everyone can go back to their homes. But it's like, people, where are they supposed to go? Where are people supposed to go? All the health infrastructure has been destroyed. If it goes through, does that make October 7th a failure? I mean, I would say no. Because, I mean, not only on October 7th was Israel's military capability exposed as being nowhere near as powerful as they make it out to be. As as we know, on October 7th, primarily a military operation that targeted Israeli checkpoints outside of Gaza and kind of easily overran them. So they were kind of exposed as being unable to fulfill their basic job that they're supposed to be good at. And also Israel's reputation has been permanently destroyed. And that's just the reality. Israel's global reputation has been permanently destroyed, as I was talking about earlier on in the stream. They've lost an entire generation. An entire generation, if you're in the West, people who will never believe any of the bullshit about not just Israel, but the whole rules-based order or the West in the first place. You know? An entire generation will never believe this shit again about our values that we have about human rights or freedom of the press, or this whole idea that Israel is this lone democracy in the Middle East that supports LGBTQ folks and is progressive and liberal. Yeah, Israel is now apartheid South Africa for an entire generation of people. You know, and no matter what happens, people are not going to go back, okay, well, let's go back to thinking that they're okay now. Like, no, it's gone, that's gone forever for many, many people, especially young people here in the West. And the reputations of every Western leader backing it as well. Totally, yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to see if there's any current right now. There's a live feed from AP. This is live from Rafah right now. Couldn't agree more, Nations Militia. You know who's good at raising housing quickly? North Korea. You know who's got doctors ready to move in? Cuba. Things could be okay if we immediately dismantle the U.S. sanctions regime. NYT's been awarded the 2024 Pulitzer Prize for International Reporting. That sounds about right. That sounds about right. I mean, they've done an exceptional job, as the New York Times always does, creating or manufacturing consent for these violent crimes. You know, that's the New York Times' whole role in international relations. So yeah, it makes sense that they would win an award for that. They've done a bang-up job of doing what they always do. Whitewashing colonialist violence and demonizing resistance to it. And sharing atrocity propaganda about people that are fighting back against a brutal colonial regime. It is repugnant. Manufacturing Consent sounds like a good title for a book. How about it? I think I prefer Inventing Reality, but it is pretty good, though. This is from yesterday. This is Shimon Boker, vice chairman of the World Likud, the international arm of Netanyahu's party. This is what he was saying 3 days ago. And I guess we should look at this and just ask ourselves if this sounds like a people that are prepared to accept a ceasefire deal.
עד הסוף, עד שהם יצעקו את המילה חמאס.
אבל משפחות החטופים אומרים שאם תיכנסו לרפיח, החטופים ירצחו.
אבל אנחנו רואים מה הם עושים, הם צוחקים עליהם.
אז תסביר לי רגע מה דעתך, כי לא הבנתי.
אני חושב שצריך להיכנס, אתמול כבר לרפיח, להיכנס...
ואז מה יקרה?
להיכנס ולהרוג...
ואז הם יצאו מתחת לאדמה.
אין שם בלתי מעורבים, צריך להיכנס ולהרוג, ולהרוג, ולהרוג.
הבנתי, וזה יחזיר את החטופים.
ולהרוג אותם שם, צריך להרוג אותם.
ואיך יחזרו החטופים בוקר?
אנחנו ננסה להגיע אליהם. צריך...
I want you to watch one thing about this depraved clip. When they say on this news program, when they push back and talk about the fact that there are hostages there, watch his face. Watch this. He rolls his eyes. The abductees' families say that if you go into Rafah, that's it. Do you catch that? That's what this man thinks about the hostages' families and what they want. And whether it's been a good idea to bomb and blockade the place where their family members are being kept for the last 7 months. Or release we care about the hostages, bring our hostages back, we care about them. This is all about these hostages. And it's when they say, well, here's what the hostages' families think. Look at his face. It shows you how much they actually care. So it's really hard to know how to respond to this seriously, because we're seeing those images of people in Rafah celebrating the possibility for the ceasefire, but then this is just this is a few hours ago. This was 1:30 p.m. And with the rhetoric that they've been using about this. Israelis are well aware of how unsuccessful the military is being. We don't hear about it, but there are a lot of casualties and stories coming back directly from the IDF soldiers that the population are well aware of. They're not going to swallow this bullshit, even if they themselves are Zionist settlers. They can't ignore the last 7 months and the fact that no hostages have come back other than during a ceasefire. Yeah, and to say nothing of the hostages that have been killed by Israel, which is a substantial number. And how do you square that as well? How do you square what people in Israel and around the world are told? Oh, we're the most powerful, high-tech, well-funded, well-organized, well-trained military in the entire world. That's our whole reason for existence. And what have they accomplished in 7 months? What have they accomplished in 7 months? They've not defeated Hamas. They've killed thousands of women and children and men who also don't deserve to be murdered. Destroyed hospitals, assassinated doctors and nurses and journalists and their poets and their families. and have not completed any objectives. They have not taken any land. They've not defeated Hamas. They've not brought back any of these hostages. In fact, they've killed a number of them, like I said. If you were living in that society, how are you supposed to square these two things? Like, I thought you were the best. I thought this is what all the money and all the weapons is for. And you even have like Israelis protesting right now saying, okay, they've agreed to the deal, so we need to agree to it. Says the resistance has agreed to the deal, now it's time to bring them home, otherwise we will burn the country. Remember that one time they shot their own people waving white flags? Yeah, I'm sure that played really well in Israeli media and Israeli society. So I don't know, I guess we're going to just have to wait it out, and we're going to have more information tomorrow about whether there is going to be this ceasefire or not. At the same time, like, Netanyahu's like political career is possibly over the moment this war ends. Israeli warplanes continue bombing east of Rafah. This is 3:03. This is half an hour ago.
هذه الأثناء القصف يتواصل شرق مدينة رفح جنوب قطاع غزة. هذا القصف لا يتوقف منذ الصباح. هذه الأثناء إلقاء قنابل إنارة في المناطق الشرقية لمحافظة الجنينة، بالتحديد منطقة المشروط وحي الجنينة وفي شمال منطقة النصر.
Yeah, that's what we saw a couple minutes ago as well. Our RT is reporting the same info. The War Cabinet unanimously decided to continue the military operation in Rafah. This is just posted 18 seconds ago. 18 seconds ago. Posted by Eye on Palestine. Continuous shooting and targeting in the city of Rafah. So I guess that's kind of the question right now, right? Is this like a limited engagement that they're getting in, like we were saying before, getting in as much bombing and killing as they can before they agree to this deal? Or is there no deal? And it's going to be really hard to spin for our people in our media class and our ruling class. It's going to be really hard for them to spin this whole idea if Hamas accepts the terms of this ceasefire, and Israel just says no and moves ahead with this invasion that they were repeatedly told not to do, it's going to be really, really hard for them to continue to spin that. So I guess we probably won't know till tomorrow if that's what this is or not. Keep whacking the mic today. And like we've been saying as well, I think any ceasefire that's going to happen is going to be extremely tenuous if steps aren't taken to actually change the status quo and the regular everyday violence of this occupation. Yeah, the Justin sit rep will be valuable. I'm actually just reading my Tanky Group Therapy group chat right now to see if there's any intel I can pass along. An unknown person says, I think it's a clever game by the resistance. They said yes to a proposal that ends the war. Israel said no. They said fine and went home. Israel said we're invading Rafah. They rejected ceasefire. Resistance says we accepted the ceasefire. So I don't know. I guess we're going to have to see. Just received an update from a source in Eastern Rafah. This all may be misinformation. Please take anything that I'm saying right now with a grain of salt. And I'm not naming any of the people that are saying this kind of stuff. Just received an update from a source in Eastern Rafah. Tanks are advancing to a maximum of approximately 150 meters from the border and doing routine maneuvers. No actual infiltration has taken place inside Eastern Rafah yet. Who knows? I think we're just going to have to wait till tomorrow to know more details about this. I don't think we're going to get a definitive answer today. I am going to have to get going somewhat soon, folks. I'm going to have to go pick up my kid from school soon, and I'm doing solo parenting this whole week, so I'm going to be a little bit focused on that and that's kind of taking up a lot of time and mental energy this week. Netanyahu just said they're sending a delegation of negotiators.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
But we'll continue the Rafah invasion in the meantime. It's so hard to imagine a situation where Israel will accept this deal.
Talk you through all this.
It's really hard to imagine that. Thank you, Comrade Bushy, for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. And yeah, really hoping to try and get to my goals this week, folks. So If possible, if you can, please subscribe to support the work that I do here on Twitch. I do the show every single day, 3-4 hours a day. Thank you to everyone who's been tuning in and supporting the show. It's the only real way that I'm able to continue doing this each and every day is through the very generous support of the community. So thanks, Comrade Bushy, for the gifted sub, and thank you, Max, as well, for the gifted sub. I like to eat over the sink like a bachelor when my wife is out of town. Well, as someone who does live the bachelor lifestyle now, I do try to not give into those kinds of temptations.
You can count.
I make myself nice meals. It's actually one of my favorite things to do. I don't just like eat cold leftovers over the sink. No hungry mans. Now, I have been leaning a little bit too hard on the skip the dishes delivery stuff lately, I will admit. Kijiji, thank you for another gifted sub. I really appreciate it. Thank you. In fact, like yesterday, because my son was having friends over, I took some. It was a good excuse to like clean, and I had been like keeping it relatively tidy, but a lot of my surfaces had been totally overtaken by like papers and random stuff. So I really took a good solid like 2.5 hours yesterday to clean before my son had friends over. And honestly, it was nice. It was a good excuse to do that. It's really nice now that the apartment is clean. You know, I'm going to try and keep it that way. It's quite nice, actually. So yeah, I'm living the bachelor lifestyle, but it's not like full depraved. It's not like just living in squalor and, you know, eating gross food over the sink. I try to have a little class. Per Al Jazeera, Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu's office says the proposal agreed by Hamas is far from Israel's demands, but the Israeli government will send a delegation to negotiate. It also says War Cabinet decided that Israel will continue its operation on Rafah, with the army announcing striking targets in the city. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see. Like, their demands are for like Hamas to just completely disarm, completely surrender, and like that's not what's going to happen. So if that's what their demands are, it's really hard to see this like holding for any extended period. Infantile reasoning, definitely. But yes, folks, if you can, I'm at 21 subs away from the goal. Hamas is like, okay, give us a state and a standing army and we'll disarm, which is completely reasonable. Well, even this whole thing of like, oh, they should have a state, but like non-militarized, demilitarized, and even that's too much for Israel. Like, they don't even want a demilitarized Palestinian state. They're not interested in having a Palestinian state. They've made that totally clear, abundantly clear. Ugh. But yes, folks, 21 subs away from the goal. If you can, please do support this program and help me help support the work that I do here on twitch.tv. Every little bit helps. And we become friends. That's right. We become friends when people support this program. Oh, I'm getting EP as well. I'm getting quite EP. Amir 2, seriously, Rob, wows, I know. Only 2. Honestly, I'm not feeling too confident today, but the prospects of getting there. I want to believe that the goal is attainable. I really do. I'm feeling a little uneasy about the whole prospect, though, I'll tell you that. Oh, and now I can't stop. Now I can't stop yawning. I'm probably making you yawn as well. Is anyone else out there yawning because you see me doing it? I'm a yawning influencer. I'm built different? Okay, wow. All right. Basically the Sandman, but the ECW guy who chugs beers and blasts cigs on his way to the ring. I'm audio only and got infected by the yawn. Has it been harder to get to the goal after Twitch raised the sub prices? I don't know. I don't know if it has any relation, because I think there's always been like ebbs and flows with that. You know, I hit it a couple days last week, a couple days I didn't, which is pretty standard. So I'm not sure. The important thing though is that even though Twitch raised the cost of subs, it doesn't really matter to me, because I obviously got another cut of that, and I get increased earnings and increased payouts as a result. Oh wait, what's that? Excuse me. Sorry. No, I'm sorry. My payouts have been the same. I don't know. My percentage and my earnings on these has not changed actually. So. Excuse me. So yeah, folks, still only 21 subs to go. Do you want to subscribe to this program? I don't have the juice today. I do not have the juice at all. But please do subscribe. Help me get to the goal. I'm 21 subs away from the goal. Barely anything at all. As you know, folks, the only way I'm able to really continue doing the show is if I get those targets and I hit the numbers, and the number goes up and the line goes up. As I've said many times, I don't love it. It's probably my least favorite thing about doing this job, and it is a job. You know, it's a silly job, but it's a job. I try to move subs for the Twitch Corporation. You know, it's a living. I don't know. No one in our mainstream media will hire me, even though I happen to be quite good at doing this, and I have a large platform, and I have all I check all those boxes. So I should probably just be able to get a job, like at a radio show or like a newspaper or something like that. But they don't want to talk to me. They don't want to hear from me. They're not interested in promoting my ideas. I just have this. I just have you. That's all I've got. Have you considered making the triangle 3 dimensions? No, no way. No way. We don't mess around with that on here. It will always be 2-dimensional, triangle shaped. Friendship access and trickle-down clout. Tiered reward system. It's the only one that exists. Have you tried love bombing, chat? I've tried a lot of different psychological tactics. None of my psychological warfare is working today. I think maybe I do have a humiliation fetish. People would love to see me up here scrambling. Just humiliating myself. I mean, I'm certainly not getting off on that, but maybe some of you are. I don't know. Really, because the email I got from Twitch explaining the hike explicitly said streamers got the increase. I'm so shocked Twitch would lie. Well, I mean, this is the logic, right? Like, I guess, in theory, if I'm getting 50% of every sub and subs go up a few dollars, my share would go up because the 50% is not changing.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good
The problem is
to talk you through all this.
when less people subscribe because of the price hike, then ultimately my income and Twitch's income are both diminishing, not increasing. This is the whole purpose, the whole thing about this whole inflation thing that doesn't make a lot of sense. Why don't we lower it? Why don't we lower it and we can move more subs? But no, that's not an option. Thank you, Anon, for the gifted sub. Thank you, Anon, for the gifted sub, who's now thrown up a picture-perfect alley-oop to the brave hero that wants to come through and trigger the very cool and very rarely seen 20 sub alert and animation. There's just a perfect alley-oop from Anon there, leaving it right hanging in the air, right above the rim, for one brave hero to come in and slam it home. It's been a while since the karaoke as well. It's been at least like probably 6 weeks since the last time I got there. But only 35 to go to get your little song as well. Have you tried moving refrigerators, microwave ovens, and color TVs instead? Perhaps in very dated CGI. That's it. One of those people sees me on Twitch and says, that ain't working. That's the way you do it. You talk some bullshit on the Twitch TV. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Get your money for 50% and non-existent chicks. That's the updated lyric. No, I'm not having a stroke. No, I'm simply waiting for one brave hero to come through and slam it home. I'm sure any moment now it's going to be glorious. Twitch's oldest stroker ever. Look at this, too. Look at that. Wow. Some people were getting...
You can count on me. You're going to have good old...
stolen mullet valor. This is the real thing. This is the real deal. Not another bean stain. Thanks for the 9 months of Prime. I really appreciate that. Thank you. You think so, Mistress of Insanity? Pretty long. It's really getting up there. Well, look at that, folks. Only 19 to go now. Should be no problem. It should be no problem whatsoever to get there. I'm sure any moment now. It's within grasp. I really just don't have the energy to keep cracking the whip on this. I really don't. Any moment now. That's right. I want my Rob TV. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Should drop a diss track. We already talked about this. We already talked about this possibility earlier. We're in a meeting? Okay. It does sound like chat is crossing me. That's true. That's very true. Maybe I do need to do a chat diss. I'm going to really unleash. Make a contest for the chat to write lines which you could read when you have no idea how to rephrase your desire for subs. Here, well, listen. If this is one of your first times in this stream, I do have a little orientation video. So I don't need chat to do that because I have a whole video that's ready to go to explain like what the community is about and why you should subscribe to this channel. I'm gonna put it on right now.
Thank you for expressing interest in the Friendship Triangle community. We would be thrilled to have you on board as a member of our exclusive platform. As you may know, the Friendship Triangle is Twitch's only two-dimensional, triangle-shaped, friendship access and trickle-down clout, tiered reward system. Today you have an amazing opportunity to join the base level of the Friendship Triangle system. Once you are part of the community, you'll have the ability to rise through the ranks and achieve higher levels of access and rewards. One way to do this is by gifting subscriptions to your fellow members or by inviting your friends and family members to join our community. As you ascend the tiers, you will be exposed to a range of new and exciting
Chet's still unsubbed as well.
Exclusive content, advanced features, and access to our elite community members. We are confident that you will enjoy all the perks that come with being part of the Friendship Triangle. However,
this part's important.
We also want to remind you that not all friends and family members are to be trusted, especially those who may not support your new lifestyle. That's why we encourage you to focus on building meaningful relationships within our community, where you will find like-minded individuals who share your interests and values. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We are always here to support our members and ensure that your experience with the Friendship Triangle is enjoyable. We're glad that you are considering joining the Friendship Triangle community. We look forward to seeing you rise through the Chaos Zone and all the way into the Elite tier. It's not a cult.
There, see? Easy. And we have 2 new viewers still unsubbed. Chet, and who else do we have? I see a couple of unsubbed chatters. Chet Hanks, that's right, exactly. So, folks, my final plea, please, if you can, support this program. And if you are just tuning in for the first time, you're like, well, this guy he just cares about this little number going up. And it's like, listen, I would prefer not to have to do this. Believe me, it's just a simple economic reality of doing this show. I'm not a huge fan of it, but this is just, for the privilege of being able to do this program each day, I must try and do everything I can to make this number go up. So money trickles upwards all the way to the very top to go into Jeff Bezos' bank account.
Husband says we're in debt. and can't afford giving money to a stranger on Twitch. Divorce imminent.
Quaker Oats guy, thank you for the 31 months. Yeah, and that sounds like toxic behavior. That sounds like a toxic person. I'm sorry, I don't want to make any like big, profound judgments about your personal relationships, your marriage or whatever, but that's a little sus. When you start getting that kind of controlling language, you never want to be connected to that. That's not good. The video just told us not to trust people who don't like your lifestyle. Exactly. These are toxic people. You don't want anything to do with that. So I think you did the right thing. You did the right thing. Suppressive person. And you know what? Even though this is how confident I am in this community, folks, even though I'm only halfway to the goal that I need to get to in order to live, I know that in the next minute it's going to come in. That's the level of confidence that I have in this community. That's the level of confidence that I have, that I know that I can start the raid, and I know perfectly well. I have utmost confidence that that goal is going to be met. I've never been more certain of anything in my entire life. Any moment now, I know those are going to get filled up. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning into the stream today. I will be back tomorrow. Thank you in advance to whoever is going to fill up the last of those, the half of the subs. Thank you in advance. Again, I know it's going to happen, so full confidence. I can just sit back and just wait for all those to roll in.